I'm very excited for our next speaker.
Absolutely.
Yes, last year we had a lot of fun introducing the founder and CEO of Wellness Together, Marlon Morgan. This year we're still going to have fun.
Yeah.
But we're going to really set the stage for him because he has a powerful and inspiring talk as always. Right, Chris?
I was specifically told, can we hold the roast-style jokes about this man until after his speech instead of before? So I will be good. I will be good this year.
If you're unfamiliar with number one, Marlon, and number two, Wellness Together, real quick. Marlon is our founder and CEO. In the mid-2000s, he was a school counselor. PPS folks, school counselors, make some noise. Yes. Saw the problem, maybe like you, firsthand in California. It was about 750 students to one school counselor. It was rough. This is pre-pandemic. Saw the problem at a school site in Northern California, said there's got to be a better way. So out of that grew the nonprofit Wellness Together, where we have in-campus, in-person, on-campus mental health services to support students and empower your staff. You'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about that throughout this time, but he's our founder and CEO. We're so excited that he's here. Chris, he gave a few instructions kind of last minute about something that he wanted done for his walk-on song.
Well, one of the most inspiring things about Marlon, I say that so sincerely, he is a guy that goes, I have a vision on how I want things to happen.
Yes.
And then he goes out and he says, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah,
and
consider it done.
It is inspiring and incredible and beautiful. And he did want to come out to a video this year.
Yes.
We were also told that we need to let the audience know the beginning of the video is apparently shockingly loud.
It's pretty loud. It comes out the gates loud. Everything's fine, but just know you're about to enjoy 1 minute of the most joy-filled reel that Instagram has ever had to offer. Starts out really loud, okay?
Marlon asked for this to be his intro maybe 35 minutes ago?
Pretty close.
Yep.
But hey, we want to make it happen. It's going to be key for the beginning of his talk. So enjoy this, get ready, and let's throw it to video, team.
Nobody does a better introduction than gospel singer Duranice Pace. So thank you to her for starting us off. There is a reason that you feel like you were just slapped in the face with the happiest video you've ever seen. And it is because that kind of happiness really only comes from one thing in life, and that is being with the ones you love. And she mentions that. I want to thank you all for being here. We had when we said, hey, let's add a third day, I said, do you think people will come? You came. Thank you for being here. This is awesome. And you don't have to wake up so early on that first day. You kind of ease into it. Couldn't be more grateful to be in a room, especially now, where there can be this many people here, and we can sort of still agree on something. We can agree that our students are struggling and that we can be part of the solution. You're here to advocate, and you had a lot of options for a career. If you are here in education and or mental health, and this were the matrix, you definitely took the red pill. So thank you for that. There's been a lot of attention paid lately to the mental health of our students. But so much of what's coming out in books like iGen or The Anxious Generation are things that we've been seeing for years. And I don't know about anyone else, but it read more like a description of something I already knew than something that was more eye-opening. And so I love that it happened. And, thanks to Jonathan and Jean Twangy for, writing those books, because it gathers consensus and it lets people know that this is something that needs our attention. The problem, though, I think can be boiled down beyond the research to something very simple. So read the books, but know this: the deep, meaningful relationships that our students and we also need is all but replaced by time on a screen. And the good news is, each of us here today interact with students and can be who shows our students what a meaningful and healing offline relationship can look like. We make room for those essential connections. We create opportunities and environments for less transactional interactions, just to be human with other humans. It's not always easy to convince students, or even adults, that vulnerability and awkwardness can actually turn out for the better, and that phoneless conversations might actually improve their mental health. It feels like describing sort of like the weather in Hawaii to someone from the North Pole. Shout out Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus. It's like seeing a life preserver over there in the water, but not knowing that it could save your life. I was at my grandma's house when I was 13 and got the worst sunburn of my life. And part of the problem is that I love tank tops, and that's going to come up later, so make sure you remember that. 1993 was a great year for tank tops. When she saw how red my arms were and how much pain I was in, she immediately did something it was honestly the craziest thing I had seen anyone do to that point in my life. She went into her living room and grabbed a huge leaf off of a houseplant that I had seen. I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know it had a use for it, but she grabbed a huge leaf off of it and said, "I need to squeeze the gel out of this leaf onto your back and shoulders, and that'll make you feel better." And I said, what any 13-year-old boy would say, "No, thank you." "No, thanks, Grandma. I love you, but I think we all know that's not going to help me feel better." But my grandma, being a very tough person and Russian immigrant, Jean Karpov, did not take no for an answer. She proceeded to chase me around her house with that tank top on, and eventually, somehow, and this is embarrassing for me to admit to you right now, pinned me to her pool table. And yes, Jean Karpov was somehow an expert billiards player, and slapped my back with what I would later find out is aloe vera. Pretty normal, pretty cool. She knew what she was talking about. And the worst part of that story is that it immediately felt better. So I had learned an important lesson, but I think it's one that we keep learning, and it's awkwardness can pay off. There's Jean. I wanted you to know how wonderful and joyful she is. She's not a monster, but she did have very big Russian hands that threw me on that pool table. It was her love that couldn't sit there and just watch me in pain. And our students are in pain. They need meaningful, supportive connections. And they don't necessarily know what that looks like. It would have been easy for Grandma Jean to get frustrated and as soon as I started running from her, just let me sit in my pain. But she didn't do that. Each day when we're on campus, we are the solution. The youth mental health crisis is challenged and starts to subside as soon as we start talking and having those and adding back into regular life deep connections, deep conversations, and we make it safe on the campus for our students to simply be human with other humans. The most human I can remember feeling, recently at least, was about a year ago when I found myself dancing in the middle of the work week, in the middle of the day, in my mom's backyard to 1970s classic rock. Not my favorite genre, but shout out to those of you who love the music at Home Depot. Oh, I forgot to mention I was completely sober. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about something else that is near and dear to a lot of our hearts, and that is the 1990s. Back in the 1900s, if you were alive, like I was, you know that taking pictures was actually a lot harder to do and sometimes more important than it is today. On a 35-roll, who remembers film? That's someone you can, those people that raise their hand, they have some stories. You need to come to them later. A 35 millimeter roll of film had as many as 36 chances to get a moment right, to capture a moment. And if you didn't do it, and you know what? The brutal part of it was you had another as many as 14 days to wait and see if you blinked. Imagine that kind of not instant gratification. I think that alone would help us as a society, just having to go back to develop photos. There was really kind of one other way to have complete control over your pictures. I had to wait for my mom to schedule a, quote, sitting at a portrait studio near the fitting rooms at JCPenney at a certain time and date. And that was really the only way to know that you were going to get a picture that you were happy with. And as a self-conscious 13-year-old who loved tank tops, this was a big day. I had to think about how I was going to style my hair back when I had it. I had to think about things like, I don't know if you remember this, but practicing an adult smile. Because there's that other smile that in grade school that you kind of just do for years and no one tells you how ridiculous it is. It's kind of like you think you have to show bottom teeth also. It's like, it ruins all your pictures, but it somehow makes them better. And most importantly, I had to decide what outfit was going to define me as a middle schooler in 1993. Spoiler alert, you've had some hints. That hot day in July, 1993, the stakes were high, and I want to present to you what has lovingly become known in my family as the tank top picture. You're welcome. If you're wondering who else that is, and if they're here today, that's my brother, who is here today. And if he's not going to stand up, if you could just point to him or make some noise right here. And his name is Gabriel. And he's also, oh, there he is. There he is. He is a leader in our field, and I'm so proud of him. He also became a school counselor and a therapist and does great work in Sacramento County. We're really proud of him. You would never imagine from this picture that that's what he'd be doing, but trust me, thankfully, pictures do not take the planning that they used to. I feel like our iClouds are full of dogs, meals, things like receipts, so like the most boring, like so much stuff. Toddlers' rashes. I feel like that's been a heavy rotation around my house. We have a 3-year-old. So personally, it's shown up in my life as having a problem with sunsets. I cannot enjoy a sunset. It doesn't matter where we are. We could be on vacation. My whole family knows this. They're like, don't let Marlon out, like around, like they'll look and see like, okay, 7:09, just try to keep him busy. Because I will feverishly try to capture the best, that last moment before it goes down. And I don't know why. I still can't explain it. I think I'm waiting for like Nat Geo to call and request my iCloud for a docuseries on sunsets from Trader Joe's parking lot, and that's going to be the day that I'm going to show all of you. That's going to be my day. But documenting moments have started to feel, and can sometimes feel, safer than actually living in those moments. And I think I've heard that loud and clear from our students. It kind of puts another option on the table versus like fully feeling the moment, even whether it's good or bad. It's like, no, I'm doing something. It's kind of like, it would be like pretending you were on a phone call in the 90s, but you kind of create a little distance from yourself and the situation. You don't end up experiencing it fully. But sometimes you're lucky enough to have a moment that requires every bit of your attention. And growing up, my brother and I, that same brother right here, had a neighbor named Ron. Ron was a pretty normal guy. He was single, retired, moved to our neighborhood. He was he used to be a real estate appraiser. You could probably list these things, but he loved fishing, baseball, 70s rock. Oh, barbecue. And over the years, he would have us over to watch San Francisco Giants games or play catch out in the street. He would often leave foil-covered, sort of like soaked-through Chinette plates of food, salty meats on our doorstep because he, quote, made too much for himself. He was a good cook, but he smoked a pack a day, so the food was crazy salty. And there were times where he was like maybe too generous, like when he came home from fishing in the Sacramento River and brought us a bucket of, I'll call semi-fresh caught rainbow trout from the Sacramento River, not known for its edible seafood. Or the other time, in the middle of the summer, 100 degrees out, I open the front door, I swear this is true, I see a huge value pack of raw chicken thighs because he got a great deal because they were almost expired. So, it was clear that he loved getting a good deal, but it was also obvious that he was thinking of us. And it's easy to miss how important someone is to you when they've always been there. About 2 years ago, when I was visiting my mom, Ron came over and he told us that he was sick with pancreatic cancer. And it was about a year ago when he let us know that he had worked with his doctor to decide when he was going to pass away. So we planned a time we could say goodbye. But what do you do when you know it's the last time you're going to see somebody. I've lost loved ones, but in the past, I didn't really know for sure that was it. And they weren't always like super with it. And this was different. How do you make the most of that time when you know for sure that it's not going to happen again? That weekday afternoon, Ron walked across the street to my mom's house. And this time, we barbecued crazy salty food for him. We ate together, not forgetting for a moment that our time was short. And after lunch, I grabbed my mom's tiny Bluetooth speaker. And in the middle of the workday, when so many other things probably should have been important or could have been important, Ron, my mom, and I danced to Bob Seger and Creedence Clearwater Revival in the hot afternoon sun. The music was too quiet. The moves, not great. But the moment was perfect. The circumstances were sad, but the mood was joyful. We were all just there, together, in the same moment, not wondering about the past or worrying about the future. Eating the salty food without taking pictures of it. We knew this moment was all we had. And that day wasn't easy, but it was an incredible reminder that the most important thing in life is the time that we have together. There's no way I would have experienced this time willingly. It was vulnerable. It started out awkward. It didn't end awkward. It probably should have, because that's a weird situation. The same is true for our students. We have a chance to be Grandma Jean, to show our students meaningful offline experiences and environments that allow them to connect. That connection is our house plant that can heal that they don't even know exists. We can invite them to do more than document the moment, but to actually experience the moment. And back at your school site next week, keep creating those opportunities for students to have meaningful connection and offline relationships. Keep opening your space at lunch for people to get together and talk face to face. Keep saying yes to advising a club and just being in proximity to the students when there's no real important learning agenda. A generation of students is looking to us as therapists, as educators, mentors, and coaches to find out what an in-person relationship looks like. Before I go, I want to show you a picture from that day with Ron, when I felt most human. But we didn't take any. The next 3 days are for you to connect deeply with the people you work with and find out how you're going to go into this next year being the in-person Grandma Jean for your students. They're looking to you for that. They don't even know it. They're going to think you're so weird for wanting them to call someone on the phone instead of do a job interview over, as an email. Or talk face-to-face for an entire class period without going to the Chromebook. I hope we can model that, and can't wait to talk with you and for the rest of this time together. Thank you.